Hello, welcome to Camp Unwrapped. Great to see you and lovely to see my friends Tom and Andy. How are you guys?
Great, thank you, Rich. Yeah, all good.
Good. What have you been up to?
Now I've been keeping busy in lockdown. So lately I've started tutoring online, tutoring English for kids mostly from Asia, China and Taiwan. So that's keeping me pretty occupied, to be honest.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Is that with a company?
Yep, so it's through a company, they're called iTutor Group, and I'm doing this maybe at the minute twice a week or 2 days a week. And looking to increase my hours over the coming months during lockdown. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a busier time for me.
That's great, Andy. Good to see you. And Tom, what have you been up to?
Well, I've had a pretty weird few days, Rich. I'm not going to lie. One of my housemates has been experiencing all of the symptoms of the virus. So he's been into hospital and they've told him he probably does have it. But until he gets any worse, they can't really help him. So he's just waiting in his room, and we are all now self-isolating in our house, so we're not allowed to leave for the next 14 days. So we've just been planning on where we're going to get our food from and how we're sort of going to adapt to this new environment.
Wow. Okay. Well, hopefully, we wish him better from us, and hopefully the 2 weeks will fly by fairly quickly, and you can all be fit and healthy. Have you been watching any telly, lads?
I have been re-watching Game of Thrones lately. Up until the end, I think I'll go, and then I might skip the last couple of seasons because they're a bit disappointing.
I've been watching a few films recently, not too many series to be honest, but I have been indulging in a few films.
Have either of you seen Quiz?
No, I can't say I have.
So it's a show, a three-part show about when a major, someone in the army cheated to win Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and he won £1 million.
Scoundrel.
Yeah, naughty. They were found guilty, but they're still appealing many years later. So it was quite interesting. What would you do? What would you do with £1 million, Tom?
I think I'd spend probably half of it on maybe traveling the world, going to some new countries, and then I'd be lying if I said the other half wasn't going on following football around the country. What about you, Andy?
For me, something similar. I think I'd love to travel, maybe setting up a small business somewhere, settling down somewhere broad, nice and sunny. But for a minute, Tom, I thought you were going to say you're going to spend money on a decent haircut.
I think when the time comes, I'm going to have to invest quite a bit in someone with some quite powerful shears, most likely. Yeah, lockdown's hit me pretty hard.
So what have we got on today, Andy? What are we discussing?
Okay, so today we're going to be looking into some of the common queries that campers coming from abroad might have. So we'll be looking first of all at the airport transport procedure. So exactly what our staff are doing and how we're making ourselves most visible to the campers that we are collecting from the airport. So coming to you first, Tom, maybe can you speak us through the procedure that as a staff member we go through at the airport?
Yeah, so all of the staff on an airport pickup or drop off wear these lovely bright yellow t-shirts, so you can't miss us, which is really helpful to parents and children alike, knowing what to look for and where to come. We're constantly registering. We've always got our forms. We're ticking who we've picked up or who we've dropped off if it's the end of the week. There's never a period where we're unsure where a child is or if they've arrived or if they've gone. Always know 100% where everyone is. A lot of head counting to make sure you've always got the correct number. It just becomes second nature for you the whole time. If there's a slight pause in conversation, you're counting to make sure all of the kids are there. And then onto the bus, we're going a long line with staff at the front and the end. Once you've collected everyone and interspersed in the group, everyone makes it onto the bus, all their bags are put on, and then we're able to relax a little bit once everyone's on their way back to camp.
No, that's great, Tom. And thinking about airports in particular, they're historically quite unreliable. So as members of staff and as a member of staff who's been on multiple airport runs, is there a time when you've had to sort of be adapt to the situation? Maybe you've had a delayed flight or something's gone not according to plan.
Yeah, for sure. Like you say, airports are notoriously unreliable. We've got delayed flights, or maybe they're changing where they've landed in the airport. We have all types of people we have to pick up, as in people who come with parents or with someone who's helping them travel or an unaccompanied minor. So we have to be ready for any kind of situation. We always go with plenty of staff members so that I can, for example, go and pick up a child from where the plane has landed. Someone else can wait with the other children already there, and someone might be in a different terminal, and so on. And yeah, we do have situations where we've had to go and sign to say we've picked up a child, or everyone has to wait a couple of hours extra if there has been a delay. But yeah, our main focus, if any of these issues occur, is that everyone's together, everyone's safe.
Yeah, it's so interesting what Tom said. There's no flight that comes on exactly in time. It can take varying amount of minutes or hours even to get through customs and to pick up bags, and sometimes bags don't even arrive. And so we have got to be completely on our toes. And from an organisational point of view, and Tom's explained really well what happens at the airport, but we have 3 different camps. There are about 9 different terminals or train stations that we pick up from. So we sort of have a map of the UK, and we know exactly what child is coming from where, and we have a lot of talks to parents. And it's really, really important that we're on top of it from an organisational point of view, because we could have, at any one time, we'd be picking up 200, 300, even 400 children.
I think I'll just add as well to that, one of the moments I particularly enjoy on an airport run is that once you've got all of the children on the bus and, they've said goodbye to whoever's dropped them off and they're properly on their way to camp at that point, it might be their first time in England, is you see the friendships start to develop straight away. Usually by the end of a bus journey, especially if you come from London, it's quite a few hours. There's a lot of chatter, there's music being played, and everyone's getting on really well straight away. So I find that it's a welcoming environment the moment that people arrive.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tom. The instant communication that the kids make, and already they're forming connections with each other, which leads on to another important point. Sometimes kids coming from abroad, their English may not be of a great standard. So sometimes that can be a little bit of a worry for people coming into camp from overseas. So perhaps, Rich, could you talk us through your experience of a language barrier at camp, maybe if you've experienced one, or perhaps maybe where language hasn't been a barrier?
I totally understand anybody being concerned about it. It's hard going away to another country when you don't know the language, and that's totally understandable. Fascinatingly, it's actually much less of a problem than one might think. The activities that we do, the games that we play, can all be described very, very simply. We would demonstrate them, and people pick up simple language very, very, very quickly. So if someone comes to camp and all they can say is yes and no, and maybe they learn very quickly of how to ask to go to the toilet, or they're hungry, or things like that, it's incredible how quickly they pick up words and become very, very comfortable. And actually, on a side note, what's very, very interesting, and you two will smile at this, is when a child has been a little bit naughty, if they're in a little bit of trouble, it's amazing how much worse all of a sudden their English gets, and they always able to fall back on, I don't understand, but we know they do. So actually, it's less of a problem than people would think, but it's very important that our staff are always thinking about those language problems, and are demonstrating, are listening to people, and are searching for the child that might not understand, so they can explain a little bit more clearly or give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, that's a good point. And as a member of staff, I know on occasion you will have to simplify your language. And as you said, Rich, using physical physical actions and your body language can be so effective when communicating with kids whose English may not be as great. Tom, just moving on to you, do you have maybe a time or an experience when you've really had to use your body language over maybe speaking English to campers?
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely had some activities I've run where the language hasn't been there. I remember trying to do rugby with a group of boys who, they come from a country where rugby had never been heard of before. It's quite a complicated game, so most of that session was delivered with showing examples and demonstrating how things work. But I would add that I think a lot of the time you might have a child come up to you and say they're worried about the language barrier. And in my experience, what a child coming to our camp is worried about is always more than fine to get by at camp. Working with the younger children especially, I usually feel quite embarrassed about how capable everyone is at different languages. In different countries, they're fluent in 2, 3, maybe 4, conversational in others. And I think here in Britain, it's really poor how we can only speak one language. But because of everyone's abilities across the board, I think language barriers are very rarely an issue.
I think you're completely right about the languages. I only know one language. Are you two the same?
I speak a little bit of Welsh, but no one else does, so it's not very helpful.
It's a complicated language, Welsh. I think it's a great example, though. If you can teach and you understand how to teach to people who don't speak as English or the same language, and you demonstrate things, you get to the point quicker. You show people what to do rather than talk and talk and talk endlessly. That's a great lesson, because we encourage staff to do that to children who do speak the same language as well. People don't want to listen to wittering on all day like we are now. They want examples, they want to know exactly what to do, and they want to follow and then get on with their game or their activity as quickly as possible. And the best way to demonstrate it is to do it rather than talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And camp's such a dynamic environment. Everyone's doing something all the time. From my experience, it's the perfect environment for people to learn a language, because you're not sitting down, you're not just reading text, you're adapting to different scenarios and different people responding to different questions all the time without even thinking about it. So for me, it's just the perfect environment for people to develop their English language. So moving on, Tom, you mentioned about running a game for some kids who may not have played rugby. It may not have been the norm in their culture. Is there perhaps any other time when there have been campers who have maybe stepped out of their comfort zone and done things that they wouldn't usually have done in their home country?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see it every summer with people trying something new, maybe something that isn't available where they come from or they just haven't personally done. I think there's a few that come out every year that they've maybe never done cookery before. And yet when they give it a go, they absolutely love it and they go on to choose it again and again. And other activities as well, particularly I think dance and drama. We often have people who are a bit unsure whether they want to get involved. They go along to one of the sessions and absolutely love it. And then more often than not, they might end up putting a performance on at the end at the talent show if they want. And you see a lot of that, of people trying out something new and then really taking to it, and they end up loving it by the end of the summer.
They're not just improving their language, they're improving their confidence and their ability to stand up in front of a group of other campers and adults, whether it be that dance that Tom was talking about, or we've come up with a dragon den type activity, and they're talking about what they've made and what they want to sell to the dragons. It's just inspiring to see these campers who maybe were a bit shy on day one, and within 3 or 4 days they are a completely different person and completely comfortable in the environment. It's inspiring to see that.
One of the highlights of my week is watching some of the performances at the talent show, because you never know what you're going to get. And sometimes you'll have kids, some of the juniors as well, coming up, standing on stage and singing or performing in front of everyone at camp, you never ever would have dreamt that they would have done when they arrived. So that progression is really nice to see.
I think also with campers doing a new skill and new confidence in areas they might not have had it before really helps them build their friendships as well, because it gets them involved with maybe. Yeah, sorry about that.
Tom, is that one of your friends trying to get you out of isolation?
Yeah, we've got a couple of resident seagulls who like to sit just outside my window and just shout meaninglessly, never help or do anything worthwhile. Just annoying.
Sounds just like you, Tom.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you talk to them?
I do at the moment. Being locked in the house, I have some pretty riveting conversations.
Maybe like on the latter part of your isolation, we could film a conversation between you and one of the seagulls.
We could give it a go. I mean, they're speaking Welsh, so I'm not sure how well you get on with understanding them.
Oh, probably not. Well, but we could do subtitles.
I'd like to see that.
So, sorry, before I was rudely interrupted by some animals outside, I was saying that these new activities give children a chance to make new friends with people that maybe they hadn't spoken to much prior to that activity. And then we see it throughout the year, children meeting up outside of camp, flying, all over Europe or all over the world in some cases, meeting these friends that they've made just, in one session that they might not have done beforehand. So I think it's lovely to see how trying new things can lead on to something much bigger for them.
And just drawing on a point that some people may be concerned about is perhaps on occasion, sometimes you'll have campers coming from a country where no other camper is coming from. So Rich, perhaps do you have some advice to give to these campers?
There's no better place to make friends than camp. And I'm not selling ex-UK particularly, but any camp. When you're taking part in new activities, in fun activities, meeting loads of different people, everyone is there for the same reason, and that's to have fun, meet new people, and to enjoy their summer. So we'd always understand someone being worried. Everyone, you can't stop someone being anxious about it, but most people turn up to camp and within minutes they found new friends, and they might change over the course of a week, but you're never ever going to be lonely at camp. And Tom mentioned at the beginning of the talk, at the conversation, that about the coach journey on the way up from the transfers, and it starts there, it continues through your first meal on a Sunday night, and then throughout all the activities, going to bed, the whole procedure during camp. And yeah, camp is not a lonely place.
Amazing. And you talk about the bus as well from the airport transfer. The bus in general, I feel, is a real hub of activity. Even if we're going on trips, if we're going anywhere on a bus, that seems to be somewhere where everyone's just ignited and the atmosphere is incredible.
The bus drivers always comment on how happy the kids are, how excited they are to be going to somewhere new, back to the airport, but they're with friends they've made or they're about to arrive at camp. So I'd agree, the bus is always a really positive place.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for all of your ideas. They're always great to hear, but before I leave you, I have one question to ask you if you're both ready. And the question is, how many nations is St. George the patron saint of? Rich, what do you think?
I really don't know. I'm gonna guess 7.
Okay, well the answer that I have is 9 different nations. Tom, do you think you can name any of them?
I'm going to say England, Georgia, based on the name, and I think Malta is as well, but I couldn't tell you any more.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Yeah, you've got them right, but yeah, the answer is 9, and these nations are Portugal, Venice, Beirut, Malta, Ethiopia, Georgia, the Palestinian territories, Serbia, and Lithuania. So remember that in your next pub quiz.
Wow. There's your friend again, Tom.
Yeah, I think your seagull got one right now.
I got 7 out of 9 and Tom got 3 out of 9. Does that mean I win?
I don't know if that's how it works, Rich, to be honest.
Oh, okay. Well,
But
I don't think I've yet got the answer to one question. So we're going to continue doing XUK Unwrapped until I know the answer to something.
Until Rich gets a point, we'll continue making videos, so stay tuned. Great, guys. So that's everything for today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.